Croissant. This is James, aka JP Harker, coming to you with another video. This is going to be one that's a little different because I'm not going to talk about stuff I've read. This began as an author tube channel and it's become more about what I am reading than what I am writing. So I thought I'd give a little update as to where I am and what I have been up to. So, as I am still the parent of a toddler, there's not that much writing time available these days, but I have been working on a couple of things. Those of you who have seen the last video will know, Gawain is coming back to me soon. The rights will be back to me at the end of this month, and I'll be taking that somewhere else or releasing it myself soon enough. And because that was coming up, I've been giving a last read-through of Lancelot and making a few tweaks here and there. I'm not going to give away much of what it's about, but what I'll talk about you would see in the first chapter in the prologue anyway. Like Gawain, it's going to be set in a realistic world, not dragons and sorcery and such like, but a slightly fantasized version of post-Roman Britain in that gap that is often called the Dark Ages because a bunch of stuff wasn't written down, where we're in the process of the Romans going away, which is 440 AD is the year people give. It's around that sort of time. It's a process. And up until when we get the establishment of the Saxon kingdoms. So the year I've set these books in is the year 455 AD. Just making sure I remember that. And it's where the Romans have gone, and have been gone for some time, because 440 AD is just when we know for a fact military aid was no longer being sent. The Roman presence in Britain had been bleeding away for some time. So it's 455 AD, and it starts on the same day as Gawain. The first few books, they all start on the same day, which is Beltane Eve, 455 AD. And we see how each different character starts on that day and with that festival, and their adventure continues from there. With Lancelot, it's a little bit different to Gawain. Gawain, living in Lothian, he is in a place where Christianity has come along, and it's set down some roots, but there's still a bit of back and forth with the older quote-unquote pagan religions. I don't like that term because it literally just means countryside. But I won't go into that rant. Gawain is somebody who is baptized and lives in a place that is ostensibly a Christian kingdom, but which has a lot of hangovers from its original Roman gods. Roman gods, Jim? British gods. The Romans are the ones who brought Christianity. I know what I mean. With Lancelot, it's a little bit different because that's based down in what is now York, and at the time would have been Eboracum, which is the Roman name for it. And the kingdom that I've got there, the kingdom of Bernicia, that is a far more Roman kingdom, a far more Christianized kingdom. And so Lancelot has grown up with the idea that Christianity is what's real, and all this stuff about old British gods, it's not necessarily all nonsense, but it's irrelevant. The attitude of the Bernician kings is, well, their power is gone now, because the Roman god is here, and they've dwindled away into nothing. So they're sort of dismissive of it. And so minor tiny spoiler, when druidic-type people become involved in the Beltane festival, which they just see as a fairly harmless, non-religion-based festival, there's a little bit of conflict there, and there's a little bit of conflict in the way Lancelot and his family think. So that's where that story's going to start. There's obviously a bit of basis in Arthurian myth, in Lancelot and Dolorous Guard. Lancelot isn't really part of the quote-unquote, again, original Arthurian story. It's a French name, and he sort of gets added to the myths later. Gawain was the original main man of that legend alongside Arthur. But I thought I'd bring Lancelot in, bring in some of that classic storytelling, but adjust it slightly so he's not from Benwick anymore. He's from Benicia, and he's not the son of a French king. He's the son of a Romanized British king, and little things like that. That's where that is going, and that's at its final draft stage. I need to give it another good read through, a good double checking of everything, but after that, Lancelot will be ready. So Gawain will hopefully be out again in the world soon, and then Lancelot not long afterwards. And after that, I'm thinking of doing Tristan, which again I'm going to take an original story as a skeleton, because we know of Tristan and Isolde, but I'm going to put my own historical spin on it, put my own slightly fantasized legendary spin on it, and see where we go with it. I've got a fairly good bullet point plan for that one set out, and something similar with Arthur. And Arthur's going to be a little different again, because despite what Disney may tell you, the story of him when he's young is quite basic. And I'm not a fan of Once and Future King. I don't like how very anachronistic it is, and Merlin banging on about nationalism and communism when Arthur clearly doesn't know what he's on about, so it's the author directly speaking to the reader, and I don't like that. So with Arthur, I'm taking a few more liberties, and I'm throwing in some more of the historical side of things, rather than what people will be familiar with from the mythology, because the mythology of him before Camelot is quite sparse in my own research. So that's that. The other thing I've been working on, and it's one of the reasons I'm doing this video is to whinge about it, is I'm trying to write a mystery, and it's really hard. It's in a fantasy world, a new fantasy world that I've created, and I've written 2 books in this world so far. I haven't released them though, and because both of them are too long and either need to be trimmed or need to be waiting for a later release or what have you, and they're both part of separate series within this world. But I really like this world that I've made. It's early medieval fantasy, and one of the things I wanted to put in it was the idea of medieval universities, which were very much a thing and tend to get overlooked when people look at historical fantasy or most fantasy worlds. Universities tend to be something where magical things happen in the fantasy world. And it was when I was reading about Owain Glyndŵr, and I thought, no, medieval world, they had places of learning. They would learn law and philosophy and history. They weren't all ignorant peasants, or they weren't rich people with tutors. They were centres of learning. So I thought, right, we'll set it there. And because I like Inspector Morse and I like Cadfael, I thought, well, I'll do a university murder mystery. That'll be interesting, and it'll be a medieval one. And I've got a good idea for it, and I've got a good central premise for it. It's just so hard to turn into prose, because I'm so used to writing battles and political intrigue and adventure. And so, even though I like the characters, and I like the story, and I like the theme, and I like the world, but putting this plan, which I've gone through with a fine-tooth comb, into prose, it's really sort of stretching the way I work with these things. So my wife is probably tired of me whinging about this to her, so I'm going to whinge about it to you, the big wide world. And if there's anyone who's written medieval-style murder mysteries, do please let me know how you motivate yourself without a battle to write, because battles really are my thing. And yes, I want to try new things, and I want to try this murder mystery, but yeah, I won't deny I am struggling with it. So I shall keep you posted on that, and I'll either be back looking smug because I've cracked how to motivate myself and I've hammered through some prose, or I'll be back here whinging again because so far I've written a prologue and a chapter, and I may come back to you in like 3 months' time saying, well, I've written 2 chapters. But hopefully it'll be smug. Hopefully I'll be smugly saying, I've smashed it. And we'll see what happens there. But yes, that's enough rambling for now. I just wanted to do something that was a bit more authory and a bit less, here's what other people write. No, here's some of what I write, and here's some of the stuff I like and some of the stuff I struggle with. And I share that with you, and hopefully it's interesting to you. And you can go and read my books and tell me they're brilliant. That's better. So I shall leave it there for now, I think. So, yes, I do look over there to click the button to stop the video because I'm not very good at YouTube videos. I'll admit that up front, but there we go. I'm pretty good at writing books, so I take comfort from that. I will leave you there. This is James, aka JP Harker. Hwyl fawr.